If you hear that, black is beautiful. Santa Claus. Black is beautiful. It's a texture. Lift your head like me. You got to wear your collar with dignity. How it burn out. Black is beautiful. I said, sing it along. Black is beautiful. Say, I'm black and proud. It's high time that we get rid of that old slave mentality.
And a very good evening to you, and welcome to this first edition of Black Matters. As the voice of Kelvin Pope, the mighty Duke in the background with his 1969 special, the anthem of the Black Power movement in the Caribbean, Black is Beautiful. He won the Calypso crown that year with that Calypso and went on to win for the next 4 years. Black is Beautiful, the battle cry of the Black Power movement of the 1960s. And you may wonder, why is it 60 years later that we still are crying Black is Beautiful? We cried then that Black is beautiful because somebody said prior to that that Black was ugly. And so we needed to affirm our identity and to affirm our humanity. And we have been doing so all the time. We always knew that we were human beings. We didn't need somebody to tell us that. But in the world in which we were enslaved for over 400 years, we had to have our battle cry. Black is beautiful. I'm black, I'm proud, and I'm beautiful. And here we are 60 years later in Guyana. In Guyana, one of the centers of the Black Revolution, the 1763 revolution led by Kofi and Akrabe and Atta and others, was part of an age of revolution. 1763, the Demerara, the Guyana Revolution, the Coffee Revolution, 1763, the French Revolution, the American Revolution, and of course the Haitian Revolution of 1804. Yes, we were part of that age of revolution. And here we are in this Guyana, the Guyana in which we are going to celebrate, we are going to remember, we are going to observe 100 years of the 1823 revolution. 1823, the largest slave rebellion in terms of the number of people that took part, the 1823 Demerara revolution. I say revolution deliberately. Historians argue whether they were rebellions, whether they were revolutions. For me, they were revolutions. Because if revolution means a blow for transformation, it means, therefore, that those uprisings were revolutions. Today we celebrate coffee. Every young boy, every young girl knows that name. And tonight we come to you at the start of Black History Month. Black History Month in 2023. 260 years after the coffee revolution, 100 years after the Demerara revolution, we come to you on this night to make our plea again, to make our demand again, that Black matters, that Black lives matter, that Black humanity matters. We live in a time when people are prepared to hobnob with movie stars on a Friday, and on a Saturday send bulldozers to bulldoze the homes of Black people in Linden, and in Moko, and to demolish the stands and the stalls of black people making a living. Yes, they're prepared to hobnob and to hug and to bring their families. To bring their families to wine and dine with Black Stars. I remember the 1804. The 1804 event in the United States of America. They call it a big fair. And they had us exhibits, black people and brown people and Native Indian people. And white people went to the fair that lasted for weeks. And they marveled at these non-people. They touched them. They measured their skin against them. And then after that fair, America went back to segregation. As I look at them masquerading themselves with Letitia Wright, I ask myself, what do they know of Letitia Wright? What do they know of the origins of that woman? She's not a spectacle. She's not something to look at and marvel. She's a black woman. And your respect for her is never going to be measured by how you smile with her and dine with her. You will be measured by the way you treat people who look like her. I am not calling on the president and the government to do anything. Not me, because I know that they don't care to do anything. I have come to the conclusion that they don't care about black people. So here we are tonight to talk about Black Matters. My guest tonight are Mr. Deon Abrams, no stranger to you. He's an educator, but known for his work in the black community. Pastor Brother Nigel London also needs no introduction. And so please share the link. Please tell everybody this new program, this new show is on. This new show is on. Black Matters. We'll be dealing with Black Matters, but we are also sending the message that this Black Matters. Racism is not what they tell us. Racism is meaning that people give to this color. The meaning of this color in Guyana is $20,000 and no. The meaning of this color means that you must not own homes, they will be demolished. The meaning of this color is 8%. The meaning of this color is that you can be shot at indiscriminately, whether you're friend or foe of the government. The meaning of this color is $52 million for 52 bridges contract. The meaning of this color is Quindon Bacchus. The meaning of this color is or in Boston. The meaning of this call is Peter Headley. Brothers and sisters, that is racism. Racism is the meaning that you give to skin color. And then you put that meaning in the practice. We in the black community have our work to do. Sometimes we are too easily swayed. People tell us that we are not into business because of some behavioral defect that we have. We don't ban we belly, so we can't do business. We like to party, so we can't do business. It is not that the historical evolution of the business class in Guyana work to exclude from its ranks black people. It is not the system. It is not the institution, they say. It is not the history. They say it's our behavior that God made us with. We like to party. You can go anywhere in the world and you will see people, black, brown, white, pink, partying right now. But nobody tells them that their partying means that they can't do business. But black people partying is used against them. It's used to say they can't do business. They don't ban their belly. Never mind, they're banning the belly in Nigeria and Kenya and wherever black people are in control. Never mind, they ban the belly and dig thousands of shovels of earth to humanize Guyana so that others can come here as human beings. They don't ban the belly, so they can't do business. And if you conclude that they can't do business, you are not going to initiate policies aimed at a black business intention. Welcome to Politics 101. Black is beautiful, regardless of what they do and what they say. Black is beautiful. It is not that others are ugly. That we are beautiful. Our cry is a cry for racial unity. Racial equality, sorry. Our cry is a cry for racial equality, not racial superiority. We have taught their children. We have taught our children. We have dirtied our hands as midwives for bringing their children into this world. We have defended the integrity, the territorial integrity of Guyana. We police and protect them when they're sleeping at night. We guard their homes. But for them, God has made us only to teach and to nurse and to police and to soldier, not to accumulate wealth. If we have the capacity to guard this country, to teach this country, to nurse this country to health, to protect this country. We have the ability to accumulate wealth too. Welcome to Politics 101. Good evening to all of you who are here. I notice our regulars are here. Good evening to you. The beginning of Black History Month 2023. And we're going to be doing our thing every Friday night here. Black Matters. Let me bring in our guests. Brother Deon Abrams.
Good evening.
Good evening,
Happy to be here.
Deon. Good evening, Brother London. I salute you on
Greetings.
Black History 2023. We're talking tonight about Black people. What is the state of Black people in Guyana today? Most of you have been part of the Black struggle. So it's not what you read in books, it's what you experience every day. Where are we? What is the condition? What is the state of Black people in Guyana today, 260 years after the Coffee 1763 revolution, 100 years after the 1823 Demerara revolution, 185 years after 1838. Where are we? Brother London, I'll start with you.
Thank you and greetings again to you, Dr. Hines, and to Mr. Abrams, to those of you who are viewing as well. It is always a pleasure of mine to join you on these forums. It is certainly with much responsibility that I sit here this evening to discuss what I know to be a very, very important matter. Where are we as a people after so many centuries? I always say that I know for sure that my history did not begin as a slave. And that's important to note as I speak to where we are as a people. I am realizing and have realized that there is a great awakening among the descendants of Africans and Hebrew people. And we have come to note and know that what we have been taught for centuries is not who we are and not how we began. And so with this awakening, I am seeing on one side that there is a strengthening of the resolve of some descendants of Africans to say that we are no longer going to accept the history you give to us. And we're not going to accept how you treat us. We're going to stand on what we know and present what we know with much courage and without any fear. But sadly, on the other hand, there are those who are unwilling to take that approach because they prefer to be as comfortable as they were in the loins of their ancestors who cowered and were afraid in some cases to stand against Massa. Finally, Dr. Hines, we have got those who are, as a collective body, being targeted solely because of how we look and what we are capable of achieving. There is no other ethnic group that can ever boast of being as gifted as the Africans are, as the Negroids are. There is no other group, it doesn't matter how they try, there is no other group that can boast of being as resilient physically as the Africans, the Negroids are. And finally, there is definitely no other group that can say that from them came all human beings. With that kind of knowledge, there has to be confidence, but also hatred. I'm always prepared to accept both.
Pastor Brother Nigel London, introducing there the problematic. And of course, we are a group, we are human beings, and human beings by our very nature, we are complex, we are problematic. And so therefore, we are humans, and that is why we are complex. I'm very glad you introduced that complexity, because sometimes we black people make it look as though we have no faults. We have not made mistakes. We have not made wrong turns. Because of the avalanche of negativity that is thrown at us, we tend to sometimes behave as though we don't have faults, but we have faults because we're human beings. John Abrams, your
Uh,
opening remarks. Where
Good
are we as black
evening to
in
you,
Guyana?
Dr. Hines, and to all the people who are watching the program. And Pastor London, it's a pleasure sharing this program with you. I'm happy for your introduction. It has set the tone for our discussion in terms of understanding ourselves as a people, as Dr. Hines did say. The fact is that if we're going to look at our condition, there are many facets that we have to deal with. We can look at the global picture, but I would prefer that we focus on our plight here in Guyana. In my view, I would deal with that. And I would say there are several facets to our dealing with our present condition. There is the psychological, of course, which you mentioned, our belief in ourselves and what we are conditioned to believe or were conditioned to believe. And then there is the current political dilemma that we're faced with. And then there is the economic facet to our life. And of course, we have to deal with our own understanding of who we are, and how we deal with our present condition. Because if you look at what is happening in Guyana, when we talk about apartheid, it seems to be a word that we do not want to hear. But we're definitely moving down the road, and we have basically reached that point where we are considered again by this group of people who are in government as being basically not worthy of our presence here and not worthy of sharing in the blessings that this country does have. And so, as we proceed with the discourse, we can explore these facets of life here to see how these are impacting us and what we need to do to get out of it. Pastor London said that some of us seem to believe that we must accept. We are afraid to basically take the challenges. You spoke, Dr. Hines, of all the revolutions that took place: 1763, the Haitian Revolution, the 1823, the Demerara slave revolution, and so on. And I believe that today we need to be part of a revolution. It's the only way that we're going to bring the change that we need for ourselves as a people in this country.
And I want to take off from that, Brother Deon, that we need to be part of a revolution. And, our own Bob Marley said, it takes a revolution to make a solution. And I don't take those words from the artists very easy. He lived through the 1960s and the 1970s. And he came to the conclusion, he embraced El Selassie's words that until there is racial equality, there'll be war in the north, war in the east, war in the west, war in the south. Whereas others, like Karl Marx, argue that the central problem in human society is class. As El Selassie argues that the central problem is race, that if we solve the problem of racial inequality, we can have a solution. And Bob Marley says that solution can only come through a revolution. Pastor London, where you come down on that?
Quite interesting, because I see in India, for example, and even in certain parts of Africa, that among persons of the same ethnic grouping, there is a caste system, and there are those who are discriminated against based on what they have. However, it can never be refuted that one's ethnic composition plays a greater role in how they are treated by others. Because I see that there is, for example, even in Guyana, a caste system being thrown at us. But I also know that whenever the discrimination has to be meted out against a group of people, the first to be selected are not those who are of the same ethnic grouping. They target another group and say that although you are in your group more economically advanced than those of our ethnic grouping, we will fight you as if you have nothing. And that is because the ethnic component of one's psyche in reference to how you see another person plays a greater role than what you have in your hand or what you have in a bank account. And so I can see life and light in both scenarios, but I can definitely say that when it applies to one's ethnicity, a greater weighting is given by those who hate us and say, because of how you look, I'll attack you as if you have nothing. And even though you are accepted in our circle and we treat you a little less hostile, you are still never going to be what we are. And I would like to say at this point to Guyanese, a challenge which I've thrown out for over 3 years and they're yet to answer me. Can any Guyanese in Guyana or the diaspora name 2, not 3, 2 Africans that look like me, who Jagdio, Ramatar, or any one of them have ever allowed to be economically equal? Even if you're in the PPP, name 2, and then we can have a conversation.
Then we can have a conversation, Pastor Nigel London there. And I want to make very clear here, we recognize and we celebrate Sister Letitia Wright. She has done what many Guyanese have done. They've gone onto the world stage. Guyanese and West Indians, black and brown, gone onto the world stage, coming from a poor section of the world and using their innate intelligence, what Professor Rex Nettleford called the inner feelings of our people, using that in order to announce to the world that we are equal to. We celebrate her as we celebrate Sister Serena Williams. We celebrate her as we celebrate Brother Hussein. Look at the government of Guyana, that it is prepared. It is prepared to honor that facet of blackness. It is prepared to serenade that facet of blackness. What about the girl selling in front of the hospital? What about that same 30-something-year-old black girl like Letitia Wright, who's home in Maka? You mow down? Is she not as human as Letitia? Her hypocrisy stinks. Stinks. Did you tell Letitia Wright that you bulldoze the homes of a 30-year-old woman like she? Did you tell her that all those women that were selling in front of the hospital were women like her and came from the same socioeconomic background like her? Did you tell her that you bulldoze women's homes in Amelia's ward, Linden? Your hypocrisy stinks. Brother Dick Gregory says that when you go out and play as a child, before you go to bed at night, your mother bathe your skin, take out the thing from your ears, wash your eye, wash your foot, and then you go to sleep. This government of Guyana stink because it has no mother. It has no mother to wash its feet. It picked up back from the nastiness of the 1960s and it brought it to 1992. It was taken away from them in 2015 and they come back in 2020. Stink as ever, no bath. And that stench is what was on parade when that young lady visited this past week. Deon Abrams, what do you make of that thing with Letitia Wright?
Dr. Hines, you were saying that they're willing to recognize that kind of talent, but the elements that we're dealing with in the PPP are very shrewd at dealing with the black psyche. And you, for a fact, know that bringing Letitia right here is not because they want to give her the accolades as you know, and to make uh, overtures to demonstrate their true love for black people. It's part of their way of placating black people, fooling them into believing that they have a concern for us. And it's part of an ongoing scheme that they use to make the world view them in a particular light. But programs like these continue to show them up for what they are. When you actually question whether they have uh, told Letitia Wright about the bulldozing of a 30-year-old woman's home and what they did to the people in Linden and at Moko and on the New Market Street and so on. It clouds the picture that they're trying to paint. And the use of black people as a way of pretending that they love us is one that we even see them practicing in Guyana itself. But they use them in such a way, they use the Mark Phillips to make statements that suggest, you know, that he is conscious, black conscious, that he has always been grounded with black people. And then Irfan Ali would always point to, or Jack Dio, look, we have a man like Mark Phillips saying, making these statements, you know, and they use them. But then on the other hand, when they want to bulldoze our homes, to get into our communities, to indiscriminately shoot people and to organize to assassinate our young ex-military men like Quindon Bacchus and so on, they use the very black people within their ranks whom they're upholding to say, well, look, this party that we have is a multiracial unit. Check the positions that they've put them in. The Minister of Public Works, One Jill, the Minister in charge of Home Affairs, Robeson Ben, the Minister in charge of Labor. You know, all of those areas are areas that they have a vested interest in controlling the African community. And these are the people that they use as the weapons to enter our communities to destroy us, so that they can sit back and say, it's not us. It is their own people who are doing this to them. The recent announcement by the Minister of Labor, I don't even, what's his name again? He's so insignificant. That they are going to be looking at the co-ops to deal with the issue of the land in their possession is another example of that use of a black man. And he's proud to stand up and say that we don't care. We don't, it doesn't matter what people say, we are moving ahead. You know, they put him there for that purpose. In the previous administration, they had Clement Roy, and Clement Roy attempted the same thing, but when we spoke out against it, they backed down. But we are dealing with a government now that feels so empowered and so emboldened that now, like the president has said in relation to Maka, we cannot appear to be soft. And so they are moving ahead in every way to demonstrate that they are not soft and that they don't care, that they will do whatever they want, right? Even at GCOM, I mean, recent statements coming out, information that we received, that one of the commissioners, PPP commissioners, made a statement to the commissioners who were appointed by the opposition to be on GCOM, that it doesn't matter what they say, whether it's right or wrong or logical or not. And he made a statement in the meeting in the presence of the chairwoman of GCOM that nothing y'all say ain't gonna be approved in this on this commission. And so we see now where the chairman, we've always said where she now lies, and his public pronouncement in a meeting with all of the members of GCOM is clear demonstration that even there is no hiding of the way they feel about moving forward. And so they're commandeering GCOM to take full control of it. They've commandeered to take control of the military. The former assistant commissioner would have pointed out how all the central divisions are now controlled by agents of the PPP. Region 4, Division C, Division A, and all the major police divisions are under agents of the PPP and so on. So we are in a situation where domination in every facet of our life is the order of the day. And so when we speak revolution, it is against this domination that we have to be prepared to stand up, right? Because we're not going to get a solution if we're not prepared to confront the situation that is before us. Thank you.
To confront the situation as before us. Pastor London, what does this scenario with Sister Letitia Wright, what does it tell us about ourselves as Black people? But what does it tell us about the condition of Black people in Guyana? What's the significance of that?
Thank you. I while answering that, or while answering it, would like to remind us about Donald Sterling, a Caucasian man, white man, who owned the Los Angeles Clippers, was the former owner. They were African stars, as they call them, basketball players, world class. And just like the days of slavery, Massa had no issue sitting and enjoying being entertained by his subjects. That is exactly what it is about, where people who believe they have power over you are excited about how you can entertain them, not challenge them. Letitia Wright came here and has not issued one challenge. Maybe she's unaware of what happened, but she has not, like Eddie Grant, for example, that's why they never celebrate him, who spoke passionately against apartheid, even writing songs to that effect about the injustice that Africans were faced with. Letitia Wright was brought here at the behest of Irfan Ali to be entertained and pampered and treated with such degree of hospitality, as they put it, that she was tactfully taken away and kept away from forums where her people's plight would have been on the table. And that, to me, is critical. That's why I have made no posting to the effect about Letitia Wright being here, because that is insignificant as far as I'm concerned. I'm not impressed by entertainment. I'm impressed by power, strength, resilience, passion for a cause. And probably she was not presented with any cause about what Guyanese face here. She should have been presented with the fact that in Linden, in the pouring rain, they were about to knock a woman's house down with her in it. And it just happened by chance that she walked outside to see the excavator bucket over her roof. She was kept away from seeing that in Mocha Arcadia, as you said, Dr. Hines, an African woman was put in mud, face down, by African descendants. And as Mr. Abrams is rightfully saying, I said it before, they are now skillfully choosing African police officers and individuals to say, you're going to do it. Even the excavator operator, according to Michael Rodriguez, who's called Guyanese critic, he was happy to say that he only sees a Black man operating the excavator as though that is a trophy for them. And so for me, the whole charade that surrounds Letitia Wright being here is just an absolute gimmick, because they have forgotten the wisdom, for example, in renaming the primary school that she attended after. A potential primary should have been named, if you had a plan, Letitia Wright Primary School. You could name a highway in her honor. In the Bahamas, you have Tonic Williams Darling Highway because she's an athlete that did well. So the whole entertainment thing for me is not what I buy into. Talk to me about Eddie Grant, who put his career on the line to talk against apartheid. Talking about him, because at least he stood for something that represented the cause of his people. When Letitia is heard by me, or speaking to the plight of the Africans, maybe I will lend some ear to her presence. But I'm not impressed by stardom. I am beyond anything called impressed by entertainment. Africans have suffered too long for us to be caught up in the entertainment game. LeBron James, when he tried to talk anything about his people, remember Kyrie Irving? He just took the risk of sharing a particular link. He made no comment. Just a link about from Hebrew to slaves. And they were ready to get his head, because you don't inform your people even of your opinion. Let's not forget how they treat these people. Let's not forget the fact that you may be willing or capable of entertaining people, but you're never willing to have you challenge them. I am looking for challengers to free our people from the plight they face. I'm done with entertainment. We suffer too much for me to be entertained by anybody right now.
Brother Nigel London there, and bringing back memories of our own E.R. Braithwaite, or Buffett, who visited South Africa, and they kept him away from meeting Black people, and he came out of it and he wrote a novel called Paid Servant. You all should go and Google it. Paid Servant by E.R. Braithwaite, in which they sought to keep him away from the Black people in South Africa. And he was shrewd enough to realize what they were doing, and he documented it in that novel, Paid Servant. They made the sister late for meeting the people at City Hall. They made her not attend the IPADG event. I am not blaming the young lady, she is innocent. But I hope that after this experience, she recognizes what Guyana is, that she begins to pay attention to her own country, so that the next time she comes back, they would not be able to manipulate her itinerary in that way, keeping her away from our own people. John Abrams, where we are economically, and I want you to zero in, because I was with you on another program, and you were talking about contracts, and you were talking about how Black people are not able to get contracts, so they become apprentices to people who have the economic capacity and the lines to get the contract. Expand on that for me.
No, that is why I was a bit perturbed when Ravi was trying to pretend that he doesn't know that these are things that are happening. There is no level playing field in terms of the distribution of contracts in Guyana. The regional level, right down to the levels of the NDC, all right? And you go up the tier, at the national level, it's absolutely horrendous. In the regions, take Region 4, for example, there is always a battle in the regions between the RU, the Regional Executive Officer, and the council itself. If the chairman and the council is dominated by the opposition, the RU takes control of the business of the region, all right? And he administers the affairs in a way that the contracts and all the other things are directed in a particular direction. To people who are aligned to the PPP, to people who are non-Africans, they may give token contracts, and these are pretty small contracts, maybe to build a fence around the school or something, but major works are not given to African Guyanese to do these works. At the national level.
Deon, hold your thought. Don't go. I just want to let the audience know that what you are talking about is not what somebody tell you. You
Yeah,
were chairman of the NDC, the Falls Buxton NDC.
but I also served on the Region 4 RDC,
RDC, there you
the
go.
Regional Democratic Council of Region 4. And the same REO there, under the chairman, Mr. Corlett, in my time, is the same one that they brought back after the elections were held in 2020. Because he is seen as a strong man who can bully, you know, the council, and he really doesn't listen to the council in any way, but always argues that as REO, he has the overriding power to do things. All right. So that's the nature of it. Um, in many regards, I did point out that what some of our black brothers and sisters are doing in order to get contracts, they align themselves with an Indian person, and they use that person as a front. They are the ones who are going to be, their names are being used as the contractor, but the primary works are carried out by the Africans who have the skills and the know-how to deal with the contracts. And so there is a sharing
But
of.
these Africans are doing the work, but they're not getting all the money. They
No, they're
still
not
got to
getting
spend
all.
the money. Right, that point needs to be made. Because
They're not getting it.
they look as though the Indian fronts, they get the contract and they get the money, meaning the black contractors. But that's not the case, right?
No, that's not the case. That's not the case. Right. And so when Ravi said that is not true, that anyone can bid and there is a fair process, he is really trying to hide a fact that is known. You know, after the program, I was called by a young brother who said that he is very skilled in his area. And since the government change in 2020, he has only received one contract, even though his bids are far more competitive than the people who are receiving the contracts um, above him. He said the only contract he got was to do work that they could not get the other people to do. All right. And then when he was to be paid, it was really the royal runaround. The PS, every time he went, something had to be clarified. And so it was really horrendous. But since then, he has gotten nothing. All right. And he's in the above the class in terms of what he does. And we have contractors all over. I mean, Nigel Hughes, I did point out on that program that he brought to light by evidence, which Jack Dewey was always shouting that we needed to provide, the nature of the government and the discriminatory practices in terms of how they allocate resources to other people as against the Afro-Guyanese. And I really do appreciate the fact that he could have gathered that data and put it out there to the point where Jack Dew could only say, basically not defend himself against it.
Brother London, what are you seeing in Region 10? Are you seeing some of the characteristics there, some of the practices that Brother Deon pointed out that he's seen in Region 4?
I actually spoke quite extensively to the reality that we face here, and some change has occurred, because I've said at one point, why do we have in this region a contractor who's not even living here? I think a person Sugram or something like that, if he had most of the contracts to do works in Linden. And I had an issue with that. And I still do have an issue with it, because I knew of a firm here that had the machinery and the means to have the works done. But yet multiple contracts are being issued to persons outside of Region 10. And they're being sent in here. As long as it comes to the Ministry of Works contract, which is one that exceeds $40 million, Lindeners couldn't get it. I remember vividly that there were two banks of the Demerara River We have, of course, Mackenzie and Wismar. And Mackenzie, they just threw some boulders along the way and said, Linden could get that one, just to dump some boulders along the riverside. But in Wismar, where they're building a simple parking lot, Lindener did not get the contract. And I spoke about that live on Facebook, saying, how can we as Lindeners allow this to happen? Where you have got a simple parking lot, by the way, opposite the Wismar Market, that is built by someone who's not from Linden, because it was to the tune, of course, of a significant sum of money. And so I'm seeing that happening here and continue to speak against it, because we recognize that there is a distinct difference in reference to persons who are awarded contracts. And even one person told me, or a few, that as soon as the government change, as he called it, as soon as his new administration, he stopped receiving contracts instantaneously. And they told him to his face, European Sea. So we now being made to experience here in Region 10 that contractors dare not risk announcing or demonstrating or even giving an impression that they are affiliated to or with APNU AFC, because it'll definitely not have anything to do with them in reference to them being awarded contract. That is a disgusting reality that we face here in Region 10, and we can see it. If there's any major work to be done, it is not given to someone of Linden. And I spoke to that, and I was told that things have begun to change. However, I'm well aware of the fact that there is what you just spoke to, where a contractor from out of Linden of Indian descent will allow one in Linden to bid, and then of course he's somebody else is behind the whole works, and the one from Linden gets a little portion of the money, but the contractor from Georgetown or the owner of that business the company gets the bulk of the money. And people in this region are just stuck in what I consider to be a survival mode economically, because even in reference to that skilled arena, they are being shut out. They're being completely shut out. We have got a bridge, the only bridge that bridges the Demerara River, the only bridge. There's a section of that bridge, if you drive across it now when you come to Linden, it rattles as if it's about to disintegrate. And I'm aware of the fact that one was responsible for maintaining that bridge. He no longer can, because they've taken that power away from Linden and say somebody else must control that. So even the bridge on which their machinery and their friends, lumber and gold and diamond, would cross in vehicles, they are allowing that bridge to disintegrate because they have no intention of empowering Lindeners economically. That's our reality. That's our reality in Region 10.
That's our reality in Region 10. The president visited Linden recently, and they made a big to-do about it, Pastor London. Tell us about the dynamics of that visit.
I was just in a program of mine speaking to that visit, and the fact that, for one, one of my peeves is that I did not see representatives of the people in reference to the RDC and the Mayor and Town Council, which is predominantly APNU AFC. And I'm saying that we're the members of Parliament. You should at least be here to confront these men, because Damlal was here with Irfan, and Damlal had the nerve to stand and say that there are 31 people in the House of Assembly who do not intend to have anything done that's good for Region 10. But the same Damlal, as Minister responsible for local government, there are 4 garbage trucks and 2 tractors in the Mayor and Town Council that are in disrepair for over 3 years, just about 3 years. And Damlal is yet to release 1 cent as far as the report has been had. I got a report that this man who came, I was sick, so I couldn't go. He's fortunate that I couldn't go. But I got a report that from the council, I sat in a Saturday meeting online, that there are only 4 individuals, 4 men of African descent, 4, with 1 tractor and 1 bin collecting garbage in all of Linden. And Damlal could come here and say there about developing Linden, when people are suffering, garbage is all over the place, and he, being minister, is not doing anything to rectify the situation. And I will continue to speak to the fact that even while Ali was here, there was no water, and still is in some cases. Since December, persons have no potable water in their homes in Central Mackenzie. And Ali could come here. And I spoke this evening to the fact of the level of hypocrisy where Ali, and well, not Ali, but the people used to say that Burnham flying around it with helicopter. Ali came in a helicopter. He landed here and was taken around the town and acted as if he had so much interest in our well-being. But while he's here, there was no water running through the taps. No proper water supply in Linden. We've got garbage all over the place. We have got roads that are almost impassable. And this man, along with Hugh Todd and Dharamlal, were here. Of course, they went to the Christianburg ground because Christianburg is known to be a PPP supporting community. So they went there and they got some people to speak highly of them because that's all they can do. But the reality that I face and the concern of mine was that the representatives of the people were not on the ground, in reference to the councillors of the RDC and the Maritime Council, who should be here to confront these men. They came here by Charles Rosa School of Nursing is still closed, and they told us that no person from Linden Region 10 can enter the school in the region Linden. No nursing student can apply today to enter that Charles Rosa School of Nursing. They put them out. And Ali could come here to talk about the plans they have for Linden. But that happens when a race, an ethnic group of people are afraid because of lack of or lack of passion for themselves. But there is hope, because if there's only one in Nigel and in Region 10, I refuse to have anybody disrespect me because of my ethnicity, and I roll over and play dead. I rather die first.
Brother Pastor London there, saying it very plainly. Deon Abrams, there was a flare-up in your village there the other day, and you're reading all kinds of things on social media. You're reading all kinds of things even in the conventional media. It looked as though you all Buxtonians decided that you all were going to come out in your hundreds and protest against the government. Buxton is leading the revolution. Is that what happened there in your village?
No, certainly not. It was not the massive protesters people are making it out to be. I think you and Kidaki dealt at length with it. There are people who are aligned to a certain section of the community, and those are people who are also aligned to the PPP. The nature of the protests is clear when you see that a fire truck, I live right on the public road, the fire engine came from Georgetown. It was at the sideline dam while a truck was on fire just about 2 corners away. And it basically sat there until the truck was burnt to dust, right? Just the frame was left. The firemen were there. Policemen did not turn up until the protest was over. They just came as a matter of form. They didn't come to quell the protest or anything, because they understood that the people who were engaged in that protest were supposed to be people who had a connection with Jack Deon. You see, Professor Thomas spoke about prior to 2015, he described Guyana as a narco state. And we have returned to that. And that is one of the things that the APNU was condemned for during its 5 years in power, because a lot of the communities where the lumpen elements were, their assertions were that things ain't happening. Run-ins can't take place. Things are slow. That the drug economy was basically crushed under the APNU AFC administration. And so they felt, and are still feeling, that they have the leverage to do what they want under a government that facilitates the smuggling and the pushing and the narco trafficking and so on. So the acolytes of the administration are in our villages, and they are part of this. It's spreading out throughout the country, and they're influencing a lot of young people in the communities, and this is a tragedy that we really are confronted with. You know, we don't know because uh, positive thinking and the concept of leaders is now one that has gone awry. You know, community leadership is something that is now uh, basically bastardized by the PPP. So Boxonians were not in the main engaged in that kind of that activity.
Yes, you heard the police said they were in contact with community leaders. They didn't name the community leaders, but you and I know who are the real community leaders in the village. You are one, and I know that the police was not in contact with you. It was a case, of course, of Hanu going after PPP friends. And that is what caused the eruption. And that is what influenced how the police stood down, the fire service stood down, because Kanu went after PPP friends. That's why police stood down. I think people who don't have a sense of what's happening in these villages and who the PPP embraces in our villages and for what purpose are a little bit confused about what played out in Buxton there the other day. Thanks for clearing the air. Pastor London, you spoke about sections of our community, in a sense, being opportunistic in dealing with the PPP. How widespread is it, and what's the danger of that kind of action?
It is widespread because persons of African descent are increasingly saying that they have to eat and they have to feed their families. And because of that paradigm, which I find to be most unfortunate, there is an upsurge. There's a surge in the frequency with which persons are aligning themselves with this administration. And regardless of what is happening to the majority of the African descendants and communities that are predominantly inhabited by African descendants, the infiltration of the concept that one has to survive, hence you accept whatever is done to you, is becoming quite cancerous. And we have got to, as leaders, continue to cry and echo as loudly as possible the danger of that mentality, where persons are in bed with those who are demonstrating to us. And the glaring and irrefutable evidence came in Nigel Hughes' presentation on the disparity regarding contracts being awarded to those of African descent and Indian descent. And when you find persons being eager to watch the disintegration of the well-being of their own people, they're watching it and they're allowing it to happen because in their view, as they said to me, to my face, that they have to eat. They have to feed their families. We are witnessing here, therefore, not just a betrayal, but a cowering of men in our society, of men of African descent, who have figured out that the better approach to take, instead of standing and fighting for the right of all people, in their view, the better approach is to just cower and accept crumbs if I can. And it's begun to spread quite widely in Linden. There are those who now believe that they can just say that they're part of the PPP and they are awarded contracts and they're awarded gifts and they're awarded handouts. And to them, as long as they're eating, it's fine. So the cancer is certainly spreading quite to every part of our body as people.
But Dr. Hines, that phenomenon is not new, you know. It's not new. It's something that happens in societies where there is domination.
Mm-hmm.
And but people have a way of, at the end of the day, demonstrating where their allegiance really is when it comes to the polls. And we're hoping that, you know, as a matter of survival, while they're trying to eke out a living and getting these contracts, we have to educate them to the fact the PPP did it, and they've always done it. All right, align their people in ways that will allow them to benefit from the state when they are not in government. They have used their. We understood the difficulties that the APNU AFC faced for the 5 years that it took power because of the unwillingness of the president and his team to clear certain critical institutions of agents who stymied the progress that could have been made.
Yeah.
And if you see what is happening, for instance, in the Ministry of Education now, there is no, the Public Service Commission doesn't appoint people anymore. The Teaching Service Commission, teachers are being called out of their classrooms and are appointed to the central ministry in positions that should really be given to people who are, would have applied and given those positions. Every single week, somebody is leaving a position in the school system and are being put in positions. So the Ministry of Education is now a transformed place. You understand? So these are things that are happening. But people are not saying anything because, like Brother London said, their idea of survival is one that is informing their conduct in terms of resistance and shouting out. Right? But I think, yeah, go ahead.
Sorry,
I still want to say.
Go ahead, Brother London.
Sorry, as we speaking to this matter of Black matters, African people, our history doesn't lend itself to this behavior being successful. Because if we reflect on the rebellions and the slave rebellions, the slaves, the ancestors of ours couldn't sit to say that sometime if we play along with massa, we'll get through in life. We are dealing with some lethal agents in this country who, for example, as you rightly said, have decided that at GCOM they will control it to such an extent that the polls do not matter anymore. That's what they intend to do. So if people believe that they can just take what they can and then win at the polls, it's not going to happen in Guyana with the likes of this GCOM that we have here. I remember Jalgio told the people, he said, listen, take whatever they give you and chase them out. I mean, this man was so blunt when he said it on the Grange. He said, hey, take whatever they come to give you and put them out. The unfortunate thing for me is that apparently Grange didn't hear it, and he went and did so much for those communities and left the likes of Linden undone. And these are things that we have to repair, not by election, but by opposition. We have to resist because GCOM is being structured to prevent any hope in the African community of freedom from these people. And so I don't see any election solving the problem because you have to wait for it to be announced. So you have a whole year plus to wait. When resistance doesn't need a year. Resistance needs urgency, and we must stand now to say that based on what we're seeing being done to our people, we are stopping this. For example, if in Linden we see or we know there's a construction company that can do a job, but we see somebody from other places coming to do it, we should come out of house and say, not here. Every machinery must go back. Give it to our people. That's the kind of resistance I'm speaking to. I still have hope that it is possible because Africans cannot survive in Guyana hoping that GCOM could rescue them. I'm sorry for you if that's the mentality they have.
Deon Abrams, closing thoughts?
Well, I think we are at a very precarious state in terms of, where we are in Guyana.
Yeah.
And I agree with Brother London that we need to begin to demonstrate that enough is enough, that we have reached that stage where we are not going to take it any longer. But the will, I don't know what it's going to take to bring us to that level where we are going to be willing to take that stand and demonstrate to these people that their idea that they are strong and we are weak, is one that can, be thrown aside. Um, the battle can be fought on various fronts, and we have to strategize in terms of how we confront the administration so that they begin to feel the pangs of our anger. That's my closing remarks.
Brother London, your closing thoughts?
I appreciate the fact that I could have been here with you and to discuss what I know to be is a very important matter. This being the initial one, I would like to advise those of all ethnicities to not be afraid to view this, because speaking of one ethnicity doesn't make you racist. It makes you aware and alert of who you are and to whom you are. We are not seeking to attack another ethnicity. We're seeking to attack the attack on us. And as a people who have a history of suffering, no other group would have suffered for as long as Africans have. We have the right at this time to speak for our liberty, because it is only when we speak for it and we stand for it that there is hope that we will achieve it. So again, Dr. Haynes, I commend you for taking this bold step. Of course, I know the labels that will be attributed to you, and I couldn't care less as to what they label me. I am African, and that's what I am. And I thank you for the opportunity to speak as one who is.
Thank you. They're echoing our own Bob Marley, who said, we are what we are, and that's the way it's going to be.
Correct.
Brothers, thank you very much, and thank you, our fellow travelers, for coming out tonight in your numbers as we launch our first Black Matters program, dealing with Black issues fearlessly, candidly, because yes, we're under attack. Yes, we have some people who are compromising us in our communities. Yes, we're up against it. But armed with a history of rebellion, armed with a firm resolution to ensure that Guyana becomes a place of racial equality, armed with a determination to ensure that whatever happens, our humanity is not crushed. We shall overcome. We shall overcome. But we must not make that slogan, we shall overcome, just a mere slogan. We have to give it content. We have to give it teeth. We have to give it the kind of righteous indignation, so that in the not too distant future, we will be speaking from the standpoint of another condition. This is not permanent, but it's only we can make that reality. Thanks very much for coming out tonight, and every Friday night we'll be here to talk the Black talk, to plan the Black plan, to mobilize for Black liberation, to mobilize for Black liberation. You know, as always, we are a loving people. We are a God-fearing people, but we must also be a militant people, a militant people. One of the greatest militants of all time is Jesus Christ, those of us who are Christian. And so there's nothing in our religion that says that we should lie down and take what comes to us. We shall overcome, but we must make that more than just a slogan. Have a very political weekend. Do something politically over the weekend. And I'll see you all again on Tuesday when we come back with our regular Politics 101.
If you hear that, Black is beautiful. Santa Claus. Black is beautiful. It's a textile. Lift your head like me. You got